to the Inkle Expert Access Series. Our topic today is change management, something that's becoming more and more important thanks to technology advancements, market dynamics, workforce shifts, and requirements around sustainability and corporate responsibility. We're speaking to Erin Landry-Baker, founder and principal of Yellow Door Solutions, an organization focused on helping healthcare, nonprofit, and public sector leaders design and implement evidence-based best practices that engage and support individuals through change. Erin, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Nice to meet you and to be welcome today.
Very good. Okay, so why don't we get things started by you telling me about yourself and a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I have quite a diverse background, which I'm finding a lot of change practitioners tend to have. So I was very fortunate to start in the not-for-profit sector a number of years ago, close to 20 years ago, which seems really surprising now. So got into the not-for-profit sector after getting my degree in psychology, and then provided some support in that area. Moved into the public sector, so worked in a number of different ministries with the government of Ontario, and then have been basically working for the most part in healthcare for the last several years, where I got to work in settings like hospitals, primary care. A number of years ago, thought I would step off the curb and start Yellow Door Solutions. So did that about 6 years ago, started off in project management and consulting, and have slowly pivoted the business more towards change management. So get the opportunity to work shoulder to shoulder with lots of amazing organizations that are working in the public sector, in the healthcare and not-for-profit sector. And also branching out now more into private sector, so supporting financial service organizations as well as global retail organizations as well. So it's an exciting time for change management, and really enjoying the ride and all of the different experiences and different clients that I get to work with, who are all amazing. So
Yeah, that's amazing. So my next question was to tell us about Yellow Door Solutions. Is there anything you want to add about the business, just generally, mainly the areas of expertise and so on?
Sure. Yeah. So really, I think lately what we've been doing a lot of is not just providing organizations that support to uh, support and engage their employees and stakeholders through change, but also going a little bit further up the path, actually, and providing some facilitation, some co-design support to largely healthcare organizations or groups of organizations that are coming together to really co-design and really redesign the status quo of healthcare delivery here in Ontario. So providing that support, making sure that we're having engaging co-design approaches to conversations to design that future state, and then providing that ongoing continuum of support through change management as we start to actually ask people to change their behaviors, their processes, their tools that they're using, and supporting organizations and groups of organizations through that with change management best practices. So have the opportunity to partner with lots of different other professionals that are out in the space like myself. So partnering with strategy professionals, communications professionals, depending on what the different projects require and what our clients need. So that's a highlight of the work, is lots of different types of partnerships.
Yeah, perfect. And so, I mean, we've all heard the buzzwords change management, but can you actually explain what is change management and why is it important to today's organizations?
Yeah, so it's a great question. It's actually, I'm finding a concept that is increasingly, I guess, mislabeled, or people are using the incorrect definition for it, which is fine. It's all part of the process and a part of people becoming more aware of what it is and what it is not. But essentially, so just to give you a bit of background, I'm certified by ProSci for as a change practitioner. So their definition, which aligns very much to my own personal definition, but the technical definition is that change management is the process for engaging employees and stakeholders, building support, and managing resistance once a change has been defined. So it's really taking a look. We're not looking to, completely squash resistance. Resistance is a natural, completely human reaction to being pushed out of your comfort zone and asking people to do something differently. So we're not looking to eliminate it, but we are looking to manage it with a number of different tools and tactics that you can use to make sure that people are feeling engaged and supported as they're being asked to change things about maybe their day-to-day, the tools that they're using, the processes that they're accustomed to using. So it's not just one conversation, it's not just one, communication plan or one email or one value stream mapping exercise. It really is that ongoing iterative constant examination of how people are feeling about a change, and then providing the appropriate supports and interventions to make sure that people are moving along that trajectory of change.
All right, very good. And what are some of the more common scenarios where organizations would need to embark upon a change management process?
Yeah, so really, you really want to be thinking about any scenario where your organization or the people within your organization are going to be required to modify the way they behave in the future, or modify the tools that they are being asked to use in the future. So now, you could be asking someone to change something very small. You're not going to have to do a full-blown change management strategy for that. However, some of the more typical scenarios where you might want to be applying that larger scale change management strategy is something like a merger or an acquisition. So let's say an organization is joining with another organization. Lots of things are maybe changing for one particular group of individuals or all the individuals within the organization, but you really should be applying a change management lens to that type of scenario. Whenever you are introducing maybe a new way of working, or you're making massive changes to a particular department, let's say it's a finance department, for example, if you're asking people to use different types of tools, interact with different groups, use different processes, then certainly that would be a scenario where change management would be really helpful and certainly applicable. Another is, let's say you're implementing a new digital solution in your organization. So maybe a new enterprise resource planning tool, maybe you're implementing a new human resource tool that people are not accustomed to using. So those are always great too. Those technology implementations, those get people very uncomfortable, maybe resistant. And so a change management approach can certainly be very helpful and really help you as an organization to realize the return on investment, because you are making, usually there are dollars attached to making these types of implementations. So it really provides that protection to make sure that your end users or those that are impacted by the change are not the ones pushing against it, that they're supporting and helping to drive that change and realize those benefits.
Right, right, right. So what are some common challenges that organizations face when implementing change, and how can they overcome them?
Yeah. So one of the things that I think I'm facing consistently with all the different types of organizations that I get to work with is the fact that we are all working in a change saturated environment. So there's been a lot that has changed about our worlds in the last several years. The pace of change is not appearing to slow down. We're asking people to do more with less, and we're asking people to embrace technology, which can be a bit anxiety inducing for folks. And so I feel like, so that's a concept that myself and other change practitioners are always pretty nervous about, or is something that we really want to be tackling and trying to mitigate, is that concept of change saturation. We are so many of us are so change saturated, and so many organizations are change saturated to a point of starting to lose a bit of focus on those business basics. So one thing that an organization can and should be doing to help mitigate saturation is being really relentless in questioning what changes need to happen when. So creating that dashboard of changes that are happening across an organization, making sure that those align to your organizational strategy, and that you're not over leveraging like certain individuals or certain stakeholders in your organization, so that there are maybe pockets of people that are just experiencing maybe 10 different changes, and another department is experiencing none. So you might want to be taking that, or you should be taking a real holistic view of change across the organization, creating that dashboard and doing that analysis of, okay, who are we impacting the most at different times? And then thinking things through, making decisions around timelines, resourcing to make sure that you're not burning out and really overdoing it for a particular group of individuals. So change saturation, big thing, confronting it everywhere, but really something that organizations and leaders in organizations should be mindful of, and just making some decisions around what are the really critical changes that need to be made, and maybe what can wait or just be timed or resourced differently. We are working in hybrid environments. So what was maybe historically a tool or a tactic that you may have used as a leader in an in-person environment, all of that needs to be really adapted to be helpful and beneficial in a hybrid or online environment, or a mix of the two. So really trying to think through, one-to-one conversations, face-to-face conversations, always super helpful. We get a lot of information in terms of how people are feeling. People don't necessarily always say and express all of their feelings. We do miss a bit of that information as we're conveying or conversing back and forth online. So moving to a more collaborative environment, an online environment, if you're not always able to be in person. So just really adapting some of those approaches that we're accustomed to using when we're trying to manage resistance. So just thinking that through for organizations, as well as the mix of levels of change competency. That's another piece too. Starting to see these really glowing, amazing pockets of change management or change leadership competency in an organization, but really wanting to see organizations really spread some of those skills across the organization so that people are more likely to be receptive to a change. Because if they're being asked to lead a change and they're not feeling confident, they can actually turn into one of your resistors. So if you build out some of that competency among folks within your organization, it could really reduce some of that change friction as well. So
I think you're starting to lean into my next question, which is, how do you assess an organization's readiness for change, and what are the sort of key indicators that you look for?
yeah, so great question. So this is a key part of the work that Yellow Door does, something that we're always looking to do, whether it's a really big, robust assessment of readiness, or if we're just going in and doing a short, tight, rapid assessment of readiness. A number of things that we're going to look at is, what is the change that you're looking to implement? Has it been fully articulated, fully designed? Have people had input into what that future state looks like, and different aspects of the change? Is it the whole organization? Is it just a particular area? Are those individuals that are going to be affected by the change, are they overstretched? What are the timelines that we are looking at? Is it a short and appropriate amount of time that we have to implement the change? Or are we looking at a really long time horizon where we're having to basically herd cats for a long amount of time and make sure that people remain engaged for a long amount of time? We certainly need that amount of time for those bigger implementations, but it also gives us lots of time to maybe lose people along the way. So also adds some additional risk. So taking a look at that, taking a look at some of those organizational attributes. So what are some key things about the organization that is, allowing the organization or allowing the change to move forward with less friction? And what are some of the things within the organization that might add to the friction of change? So just going back to that leadership change competency, do you have some of those skills or pockets of those skills across the organization that is contributing to that confidence of leaders as they are asking people to follow them and embark on a change? Does that exist? So taking a look at all of those organizational attributes as well, and then doing an assessment of, where is the organization at, and where can the organization really focus its investment into the people side of change? Because I think we get really excited about implementing a shiny new digital solution, for example, and we're like, oh, it's going to fix all of our problems. But when you're working with people, you have to get them from current state to future state. So there's that messy middle. How are organizations really looking to address that people side and making sure that they're ready to do that, and communicating, supporting, engaging all the way through that process. So always looking to assess that and then provide some of those key recommendations about, how do you leverage the strengths of the organization, and how do you also mitigate some of the challenging aspects of the organization or the change itself, to make sure that the organization is ready. So but it's always tricky. Change is difficult for people, and yeah, it's important to be considering that, not just the shiny new outcome of a new digital system or a new way of doing things
Mhm.
in your organization.
Yeah. I think you answered my next question, which was the role of communication and employee engagement. So that's obviously quite important. So how do you handle resistance to change within an organization, and what strategies do you find are most effective?
Yeah, so there are lots of different ways to manage or even look at and frame resistance. So I think that there will be probably some change practitioners that are starting to back away actually from the term resistance. It's still out there. We still use it. But certainly resistance can be a really amazing form of information and guidance to that project leadership team. So let's say there's a project team that is leading and guiding the implementation of a new change. If you're hearing lots of consistent pockets of resistance from your stakeholders or your intended end users, that can and should be used as a data point and some information about, okay, well, maybe we've missed the mark on timelines. Maybe we haven't communicated the why of the change very well, and maybe we need to go back and recommunicate that. But certainly taking that approach of resistance is a natural human reaction to change and being pushed out of from your familiar comfort zone into a new space and unknown for folks. But certainly there are areas, and certainly not every element of resistance is always helpful. So listen to the objections, because as I said, they could help to guide and steer the direction of the project. And it also is really helpful for people to feel seen and heard through change. It allows people sometimes to, get their fingerprints on the change, or what the transition is going to look like. Sometimes that's all people need or want. Not usually, but certainly it helps people to feel supported and engaged in the process, which is really important to change management.
Mm.
Um, but you also, whenever there's an opportunity, if there are case studies from like other organizations that have maybe have implemented a similar system or similar services or processes, you really want to be trying your best to bring some of that data and information into the organization. You might want to pilot things or take things, in a more chunked out timeline, so that you're not just going full blast on the whole organization. You can basically study how the implementation goes in a particular area and then roll out to other areas, and leverage those initial folks as change champions. You can also work to remove barriers. So if people are saying, well, this particular change is going to be challenging for this particular reason, if there's something that you can do as leader in the organization to remove those barriers or to make those adjustments, then do them. Because if it's possible and it makes things easy, you're not going to be able to remove every single barrier. However, if there are some unanticipated barriers to people being able to move forward to embrace the change, then I think it's worth exploring and maybe thinking through what that could potentially look like. There are a number of different ways that you can address the resistance. Sometimes your squeakiest wheel, or the person that's most passionate or resistant to a change, sometimes once they have been engaged in the process and are able to contribute to the how of getting from current state to future state, sometimes that transforms people into your loudest and best champion. So certainly look for opportunities to do that as well. But yeah, lots of different ways to manage resistance, but we're never looking to just completely eliminate it, because we're working with humans, we're not working with robots.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. So how do you measure the success of a change management project?
Yeah. So it depends on what the change is, but like let's say for example, we're implementing a new digital solution to what may have been, let's say, an outdated or paper-based process. So you're going from paper-based process to fully realized shiny new digital solution that's, generating all of the reports and everything that you need for senior leadership to be able to effectively do their job. So some of the areas that we would want to look at is the level of adoption of that new system. So are people going in, are people even using it, first of all? Are people using it appropriately? Like, are there errors that are coming up? So doing some of that measurement, asking people, hey, how are you feeling about this new system? Do you like it? Now that might take some time for people to adjust. And so you certainly don't want to do that initial measurement. And if things are, showing that frowny face sentiment, it doesn't mean that you haven't necessarily been successful in your change management. You might just be in a particular spot in your change trajectory. But asking people how they're feeling, what they are concerned about, or what they're excited about, that also provides you with a lot of information that can steer you in the right direction so that you can maybe tweak some of your efforts. Like maybe we didn't hit the mark on training, for example. We always want to make sure that people have the ability to adopt and embrace these new systems. So maybe we missed the mark, maybe on training as a whole. Or maybe we missed the mark with a particular group. So maybe we need to go back and offer retraining that is really specific to this particular group. So always measuring, always keeping that pulse, and then going back and addressing that, and then remeasuring again. So how are you feeling? How's your level of confidence with this new system? And what is your outlook for other changes as well? Because we know that if we are not being successful in an implementation, if we aren't doing things well from a change management perspective, we know that people are more likely to resist other changes in the future as well. So if people are saying, oh, I felt supported, I felt engaged, and you're measuring that, to me, that's a great success from a change management perspective. That also opens up more opportunity for innovation and implementing other solutions or processes within an organization, because people are like, hey, we did that well. And I feel more confident in our organization's ability to support me and engage me through change. So that could unlock a lot of resistance as well for future implementation. So always asking too, like, how do you feel about the future? That can also be a great indicator of change success.
Perfect. Okay, so let's talk about the role of leadership in driving change and how can leaders be more effective change agents?
Yeah, I love this question. So active and visible sponsorship, so sponsorship, leadership from individuals within an organization is the number one leading success factor, or the success factor that contributes the most to a successful outcome of a change. So leaders really need to be out there explaining the why of the change, really trying to drive that awareness and pin down desire for the stakeholders or the individuals and employees that are going to be expected to make the change. If organizations or people within organizations are seeing that their leaders are disengaged, uninterested, not participating in meetings or the messaging of the why we're doing this, your people are also going to disengage. It sends a really amazing signal to your staff and your employees that you have a very vested interest in the outcome of this project if you, as a leader, are constantly present and making your presence known and your excitement and your support for that transition throughout the process. So I am always telling leaders, active and visible sponsorship, get out there, go to the meetings, go to the go lives, go to the announcements. It is time consuming. I know we're all extremely busy with a number of different things, but this will be well worth the investment of time and effort, because it helps people to know what's really important and sends a signal about the priority of the change that people are being asked to embark upon.
Right. Okay. So we got time for one more question. So what are the top 3 pieces of advice that you would give to leaders of organizations that are undergoing major transformations? And a lot are these days.
Yeah, yeah. So create that dashboard of and make sure that you are taking that global look at your organization and taking a look at how different stakeholders or groups of employees or departments are being impacted by changes, not just the change that you are looking to implement. It's really important to make sure that we're avoiding change saturation and that we're mitigating that. We know that change saturation can contribute to low morale, low productivity. It can contribute to burnout and turnover. And so we really want to be trying to mitigate that. And you can do that by starting to take a look at the global portfolio of changes that are happening within an organization, and then spacing out your change or realigning things appropriately. I would also say, again, just going back to the answer that I just gave, provide active and visible sponsorship. I can't stress that enough. I've seen it work so successfully on so many different projects when I come in, really trying to engage the appropriate level of sponsorship and leadership into those projects so that they are providing that voice and sending that signal to the organization that this is a priority change, that we are, really paying attention to this. We're making the right investments into the people side, not as well as the technical side of the change. So really make an effort to be out there and have your own communications roadmap for those different types of changes. And then thirdly, I would say equip your people with change leadership skills. You may already have people within your organization that are certified in change management that aren't necessarily using their certification to its scope or to its maximum potential. So make sure that you are either finding the people that may already have those skills and leverage them appropriately. And if you don't have that change competency within the organization, go and seek it out and start equipping some of your senior leaders with some change management knowledge or competency best practice, as well as those individuals that are going to be the leaders or managers of change. We know that those individuals, if they don't feel confident in their change leadership competency, they will turn into your biggest resistors. So if you build out their competency and their ability to lead change effectively and coach their teams and support and engage their teams through change, we know that that will unlock an incredible amount of resistance that you may be experiencing in that middle level of an organization. So equip them with those skills and engage in those conversations. So those are my top 3, I would say.
That's awesome. All right, Erin, thank you so much for your time today. I know that organizations will find this information about change management very helpful, especially in an economy where the ground beneath us feels like it's just constantly shifting. Thanks again for your time, and all the best to you and the team at Yellow Door Solutions.
Thank you so much. It's been a great conversation. Thank you so much, Robin.
All right.